How to create wealth investing in real estate. Not just any real estate. I'm not talking about whole life. I'm not talking about single family. I'm not even talking about quads or duplexes. I'm talking 32 unit plus multifamily commercial real estate. That's where it's at. As long as I can remember, I've been extremely fascinated with real estate. And here are 4 main reasons why I love apartment buildings above all else. They're actual real assets and not paper, and they can't be easily replaced. And if you buy the right deal, then they provide a positive cash flow every month, and you build equity in that property as well. And on top of that, if you do a syndication model, then you're gonna make a lot of cash right up front. Also with apartments, the value raises just from raising rents, and that's the multiplier. It's like the secret. Now, before you just think right away that I'm like a bad person just because I said like, oh, I could just raise people's rents to make the value of the property much higher. There's more to it than that. Most of the time, the reason why we purchase a property is because when we're evaluating the property and doing the underwriting on the property, we can see that the rents are under market rent value. So then what we do is we look at all the other properties around the area and see what their rents are at. If we notice that this property's rents are $300 under market value, then what we'll do is we'll come in, we'll acquire the property, and then we'll right away bump the property up to what the market rents are. And the cool thing about apartment buildings is that the value of the property is not measured by the traditional comp system, which just means that you assess the value of the property compared to all the other similar properties around the area. That is not at all how commercial real estate is valued, which is why I love commercial real estate. If you have a house, a single family house in a neighborhood, and that neighbor files bankruptcy, that neighbor files bankruptcy, and that neighbor lets their house just like go to shit, then now the fact that they sold their house undervalue and they sold their house undervalue and this person's house just looks super ugly, so their house gets appraised at a much higher value, then what does that do? That brings the value of your house down, because your value of your house is not based on just your house specifically. It's based on the comparables of all the other properties around you, which is really bad and that's really risky. But for apartment buildings, it goes purely based on how much income is this property generating. So for easy math, if I buy an apartment building for $10 million and it's 100 units and I raise all of the 100 units up by $300, boom. Think about it, that's an extra $30,000 per month. Multiply that by 12. I just made that property produce an extra $360,000 a year just by raising the rents up $300. And so because that property is earning an extra $360,000 per year, now if I were to literally go sell that property in 18 months or so, I could sell that $10 million property, $17 million minimum, just by buying it with undervalued rents, raising the rents, and then just selling it. And then the 4th reason why I love apartment buildings so much is because you're able to leverage debt to acquire the property. You're also able to leverage debt to increase your position. And this is one thing that I absolutely love. This is something that people have completely backwards. Poor and middle class people hate debt because people like Dave Ramsey tells them that debt is bad. People who actually understand how money works love debt. Debt is their absolute best friend, because I do not have $10 million sitting in my bank account where I can just go in there, take $10 million out, hand it to the seller of this apartment building and be like, here's $10 million for your apartment building. Thanks, have a great day. I just bought this apartment building. No, that's not at all how it works. I'm going to go to a big lender, Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, and I'm going to get a $7 million loan. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise capital from investors, specifically accredited investors, for the other $3 million. And because I got the loan under my name for the $7 million, I own the biggest piece of the pie for that apartment building. So again, I have the most position within the property, and I'm using investors' help to go ahead and raise the rest so that we could come in and we can acquire the property. And then I don't even have to pay that loan back. Why? Because I have tenants, people who need a place to live, who then move into the apartment building and they pay my rent for me every single month. My cash flow every month, my tenant's rent is literally paying off that loan. Every single month, my loan is getting lower and lower and lower and lower in terms of how much I have to pay back, because every month I have cash flow coming in and that cash flow is paying down that loan. So the property, again, in that example, the property is producing an extra $360,000 a year. So not only am I going to sell the property for higher than the loan amount, but I never had to pay a penny down of that loan, my tenants did, and I'm gonna sell the property for multiple $1 million more than what I bought it for. And in the entire process, I never used any of my own money. That is exactly how you create wealth, through investing in commercial real estate, specifically apartment buildings.